Welcome, everyone, to Whisper to the Wild One, a podcast devoted to the brave art of coming to know yourself more authentically. I'm Susie, the therapist and fellow traveler in the wilderness of healing.
And I'm Marcus, your certified life advisor, here to talk with you through joy, through ache, through the places you forgot to look for yourself. This space was created for the parts of you that feel too much, dream too big, and wonder, is there more?
We believe there is so much more, and not just out there, but within you. That's what today's episode is all about. This is the invitation to come home to your wild, radiant, fully alive self.
So yeah, absolutely, I agree. So let's start there. So what does it even mean to come home to yourself? Maybe you can give us a little bit more insight of what that means. Like, what's the wild self that's in the real people that we're talking to? Like, how would one come home to their true self?
Yeah, great question. From a therapeutic lens, this can look a lot of ways. Some of the times it's looking like working with your inner child. Sometimes it looks like, you know, working on identifying your values. And recently, how I've been integrating this into practice more is through what we call, in big fancy terms, internal family systems. But essentially, it's a modality that helps you work through parts of yourself. And when we use self in this modality, we're saying self with a capital S. It's the compassionate, creative, and calm part of you that sometimes gets blocked by not the wild one, but it gets blocked by all of the things that keep you acting in a way that feels untrue to yourself.
Yeah, it kind of goes back to maybe what we are talking about on the first episode, where there's different roles we're trying to play. So it can definitely mute the wild one. It can mute your true self. So we definitely want to, like you said, try to come home. It may feel unnatural to come home to your true self, but with time and with our guided, meditation and practices, we'll be able to help you do that, one podcast, one day at a time.
Absolutely. Is there anything in your coaching style that you try to tap into that helps you or your clients, activate their wild one?
So first, to activate your wild one, in my opinion, in my style, you first need to identify your wild one because again, there's could be so many different voices, different struggles internally. So the first step for me, and that how I do it in my coaching style, would be identifying your wild one. Who is the true you? Who is the true passionate you? Once you identify that, then you want to make sure you start taking little baby steps to nurture, to grow. It's like growing a plant, right? You're not just gonna have that plant grow into a blooming, 10-foot tall plant over the time. No, you identify what does that plant need? What it needs soil. Is it an indoor plant? Is it an outdoor plant? What is the best way to nurture that plant? You don't want to overwater it, but you need to identify what it is you're taking care of. And then once you do, then you can start taking steps as to making solid foundations and building blocks to building yourself up, to building up your true wild one, your true self. Just, finding that solid foundation. But having that solid foundation, I think you may agree, is key, whether it's in personal life or we want to have that solid foundation so we can start growing upwards.
100%. I think I use this a lot when I work with my clients, but also when I work with students. So, if some of you don't know already, I teach at the university in our neighborhood and help fellow social workers um, get their education and be able to go out into the field and do this work. And I let them know that along their social work journey, they're going to sometimes be the social workers who plant seeds.
Mhm.
Sometimes they're the ones who have to water the seeds. Sometimes they get to see the full bloom. And then I kind of like to say that I'm the social worker who is the weed puller. So there's a garden there, but it's hard to see. And I think that's like what we mean when we say, "Where's your wild one?" It's buried in all of the weeds and expectations of other people, of the world. And we have to pull those weeds to get the wild one or your truest self shining again. So that's like the beautiful part of the work I think that we both do with our clients.
Right.
And I'm wondering, if if you are aware of any signs that clients show when maybe they've felt disconnected from their true self.
Absolutely. And the first sign is fatigue. It's mental fatigue, it's physical fatigue. It's what a lot of people call brain fog. You feel, exhausted all the time. You're not able to compartmentalize your thoughts to get your day straight. And it can be overwhelming because again, you're internally, like you said, you have these weeds, like you said, on in your garden, and there's so many. There's not just one or two or three. There could be, tens of hundreds. So taking time, to pull out one at a time, whether it's, with help from a friend, help from a professional like yourself or myself, just to start clearing that path because as long as you're fatigued, you're not going to be able to identify, like I said earlier, your true self before because you're just too tired. Like, we get it. You're too tired to do anything. You just want to, get to the next part of the day. So the first step is just getting mentally and physically, not so tired. So maybe you can kind of walk us through a little bit of how that looks like.
Yeah, I think you hit the exhausted part just right. And I think that in addition to that symptom, sometimes you catch yourself also saying, like, I don't even know who I am anymore.
Right.
I know that personally, I've said, I don't know what I'm doing,
Mm.
right? Sometimes it comes in different variations. But if you find yourself feeling more lost in the days, then you do feel that you're in the right place or that you know who you are, you might be disconnected from your inner voice.
I agree, and it's we've all been there, but it's important to try to again identify, have I asked myself, do I have the identity? Who am I? What am I doing? It's okay to ask yourself because now that's the first step of listening to the wild one. Because now you can ask, well, then if this isn't me, then where is the true me? Where is my true self? Take time to, pause and listen and maybe you feel grief and even in life that looks good on paper, or maybe you stop dreaming altogether, but you just want to listen, like don't stop because like I said, we said earlier in the podcast, maybe you dream too big. There's no such thing as dreaming too big. You don't want to put limitations on yourself, but if you're tired and fatigued, you're just trying to get to the next just you're just trying to get to the next hour of the day, the next part of the day. So taking time to self-reflect, to pause, to be intentional, to be mindful. These are the first steps that we want to encourage you wild ones to start doing to reconnect with your wild one. Because again, it is a whisper, but eventually, hopefully, it'll eventually be a loud roar. But we're gonna start with that foundation of taking that pause. Let's reconnect with ourselves and go from there. If you're nodding right now, breathe. Again, you're not alone. That ache that you feel, it's not a flaw. It's the first clue. It's also the first whisper. So just what I want you to do, like I said, there's some breathing techniques that I would recommend is if you're alone and you're feeling overwhelmed, tired, to just take that deep breath in and hold it as long as you can, and then slowly exhale. And again, if you're wanting to do that now, please take that moment. We're gonna just kind of just work through this together. Again, if you're just feeling I'm too tired, it's just too much, who am I? Just take a deep breath in, hold it for a few seconds and slowly breathe out. And then that's one of the techniques I like to use with my clients, just to, again, when life is too feeling too much, you can always take a moment to stop and breathe. Also, find a quiet place. A lot of times in the world, we are surrounded by noise, your cars and trains and sirens and this. Like, find a quiet spot to breathe. Find a quiet spot in your home. Find a quiet spot in your work. If you're out somewhere, just take that time to just pause. And because we can so many times get caught up with what's next, what's next. So slow it down. Take that breath, listen to that first whisper, and breathe.
I think that's a wonderful exercise. We're just gonna play some music here, give everyone a few seconds to think about that breath. And to kind of bring us down to a moment of additional pause, we've talked a lot about our internal self, the things that you might be feeling, the negative symptoms of being disconnected from your wild one. But I think it's no better time than to launch us into the musical muse break that we love to include in our segment. So, what song do you have for us this week?
By the way, this is probably the best segment because it features musical. Just saying, I may being subjective, but I think it's the best segment. What do you think?
I'm loving it. I think as we have been preparing for these episodes and we find the musical muse break that really taps into the topic, I get more excited every week to hear what you've brought.
Absolutely. So this week, again, we're talking about reconnecting with yourself, reconnecting with the wild one. So the song that I've chosen for the musical muse of the week is the song by one of my favorite bands, System of a Down. And the song is called Aerials. And let me just read you a few lyrics again. I won't sing, I won't do that to you. But I want to just read a few lyrics about how this song inspires me to want to reconnect, with myself sometimes when I'm listening to my wild one. So some of it is when you lose small mind, you free your life. When you free your eyes, eternal prize, aerials in the sky. And there's another part here. Because we are the ones that want to play, always want to go, but never want to stay. So for me, that part right there is saying, for me, I interpret it as like, you know, we want to do typically, sometimes what other people want to do. We're not listening to what we want to do. We want to go, but we never want to stay. So why are we being torn? Why are we doing something, that someone else wants to do? We're not listening to our true selves. Is there anything else here? And then, yeah, there's another lyric here. So, like, life is a waterfall, right? We drink from the river, but we turn around and put up our walls. So, of course, a lot of times in life, we're putting up our walls because we want to protect that wild one, that whisper, because it's so fragile, it's so raw. We dare not show that self of ourselves because we don't want to be judged. We don't want to be ousted. I don't want to act this way. Society may not like it, So, so and so may not like it. My family may not like it. Let me put up this wall and, I will do as I've been instructed to. So, again, the song is very inspirational. It's very raw. It's very passionate, and it definitely inspires me to listen to My Wild One. And I would encourage you to listen to the song. And again, it may not be your style of music, it may not be your vibe, but if it is, give it a try, give it a listen, and see if you can, start to hear that meaning in that
I
song.
love that. And I think that, I would love to see what people or other listeners feel. What songs are you guys listening to that feels
Right.
like, oh my God, this reminds me I've disconnected. I think that line, we turned around and put up a wall. we put up walls all the time to protect our wild one. Sometimes we talk about putting up our walls to protect our inner child or just to protect ourself holistically, not just the truest form, but all the forms of ourself. And, I think that it leads us into, what the wild one holds. And I sometimes have to ask clients, if you didn't have anything to prove today, who would you be? How would you bring that wall down? And sometimes that brings up tears for clients. And when those tears start to come, it's probably because they're tapping in to that self, that capital S self, that really needs to step forward.
Absolutely. So, right now let's talk about it. This wild one that's inside of you, they're not reckless. They're not out of control. It's just uncaged. It's unfamiliar. They know what lights you up. They know what, excites you, what ignites you. They remember how to play, how to laugh. They still honor your grief, right? But they don't dwell in it. They crave depth, not performance, and gain. But we want you to, most importantly, gain comfortability with your wild one, because again, not just just to drive the point in that a lot of times we get caught up in our roles. We get caught up in what other people want us to be. So, sometimes, and I saw this it was a you showed it to me. It was something on Instagram, and it was an introvert girl who for and it was a skit, so they were both in on it, but it still made a great point. She was, being a little silly in front of the movie theater, and the guy's like, "What are you doing? Stop acting like that." And then she's like, "Shut down," because she showed her true self. And I know there's people out there that have maybe been in that similar situation where you dared, like, were a little goofy, started skipping down the street, chasing a duck in the middle of a park, and then someone says, "What are you doing?" And then all of a sudden you clam up. And I thought that was a really powerful video, because she's like, and then the guy later was like, "Why aren't you talking to me? Why aren't you talking to me?" And it's like, because you just I dared show some of myself, my vulnerability to you, and then you judged it. So that again, if we're around people like that, we want to be mindful. The people that are, if they're stifling your wild one, then maybe you want to think twice about those connections, and you want to be around the people that are helping you pull out the weeds, like Susie said earlier, helping you water your garden, helping you, uh, you know, helping your wild one from being a whisper to being a roar. You want to surround yourself with those connections.
I love that. And I think, don't let someone stifle your inner child, your inner self, your excited, bubbly self. I had a client just the other day say something along the lines of like, I don't know why I'm afraid to tap in because I'm never that impulsive. Like the impulsive decisions aren't bad decisions. They're fun. They allow me to be my bubbly self and, tap in. And I think that that was such a beautiful way of looking at that is they're not reckless. They're just uncaged. And when we remember to play, it's why playfulness is one of my core values. I think that it allows us to invite our holistic self presenting into presenting ourselves to the world, externally. And so I'm curious, do you have an invitation for our wild ones?
I do. So here it is, wild ones, your invitation. It's not to fix yourself. It's not to hustle towards some better version of you, but just to remember who you've always been. This is a season we'll walk beside you with journal prompts. We're gonna have guest stories, we're gonna have meditations, and we're going to most importantly have real talk. We're not gonna sugarcoat. We want to make sure that our talk is respectful. We want to make sure we're having respectful conversation with each other, but that we're being honest with you, we're being honest with ourselves, and not to tame you, but just to help you recalm the scared within you. We want you to help you reclaim your wild one that is there. It has never been gone. It may have been muted, but it's there. So we want to help you. That is your invitation today, wild ones.
I love that. And I love that you said respectful, but we're gonna real talk. And I will never forget there was a buddy of mine who I worked with back in the college days. And whenever we had real talk, it was like the clap, clap, on the syllables. And sometimes we don't want to hear the real talk, but we absolutely need the real talk. So we are inviting you as our wild ones, our listeners, to come in prepared to hear the real talk, not just from us, but hopefully from our guest stories. And if you have a story, we would love for you to reach out. You can contact us at our email, which is contact@luminous-self.com, and we'll kind of drop that in our podcast notes and description. But if you want to be a guest who wants to real talk and share about how you are living authentically yourself, please come in. We would love to hear from you.
Absolutely.
And
And also too, again, if you're listening to this podcast on YouTube, listen, you can engage in the comments. If you have a question, put it in the comments. Go to our Instagram, there's many ways you can connect with us. This is one of the ones that we've offered to help connect with you because this is all to help us connect with you, our community, and listen to you and help guide you.
And with that guidance, we're going to try to always leave you with a little something in my therapy sessions. I call this their intention setting. Do you have anything that you leave your clients with when you finish your coaching sessions?
Absolutely. I let them know again if you have problems or if you're struggling, write it down. There's something that you have or had a journal, but it's a specific journal. You can do either a journal that you want to keep as a keepsake or there's something called record journal where you just write something down and you just tear it up, which I guess there's something freeing about tearing up a journal. So, whatever your style is, write it down or whisper it to yourself or just let it move through your body this week. And once you hear it, don't, be alarmed by it. Just be like, well, wow, that is my true wild one. No, and there's no pressure to do it right. Just acknowledge it. Just notice it. That's the first step. It's an important step. So if you hear that whisper, just acknowledge it, and then we'll continue to say, help you listen and cultivate and pull those weeds out and grow your garden, help you build your wild one.
And so here is your first gentle reflection that we will be leaving you with. This is for this week, and we want to ask, when did you first feel like you had to leave a part of yourself behind? And what might it look like to go back and gather that part of you again? So we're just gonna let you sit with that. What would it mean for you to find that part of yourself you left behind? We are so honored that you've joined us today. This is just the beginning, not of the program, but of a adventurous and a wild pilgrimage.
Absolutely. And to the one within you who dares to dream, to feel, to break the rules of perfection and dance barefoot in their truth, we see you, we acknowledge you, we love you. We hear you, and we're walking with you.
Until next time, be gentle, be curious, and